Hey, what's going on everybody? Today in this video, I want to give you guys my beginner's guide on how to play guitar live. I'm very fortunate to where playing guitar live is actually like my main source of income and actually has superseded YouTube anymore. So I feel as though I feel qualified to talk on this, and I'm really passionate about playing live music and putting on a literal show. So I just wanted to give you guys my thoughts and opinions on how I go about doing it, what I think works, what I think doesn't work, and anything in between, okay? So if you find this video educational, informational, or if you just enjoy hanging out with me, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on any sort of social media platform, any sort of streaming service platform. I'd really sincerely appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, let's start talking. So just a little bit of backstory about me if you guys don't know who I am. What's up? My name is XRC, the mighty Xander, Raymond, Charles, and I play guitar more or less as a hired gun anymore. My main gig is playing with the new up-and-coming artist, Elijah, based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and he's just crushing it, and I'm so thankful to be a part of that. But also, too, in this past year, I played with a metalcore band by the name of For the Fallen Dreams, and yeah, more or less, I've just been playing around the United States and now soon to be playing around Canada for the better part of 11 or 12 months, almost nonstop. In a year's time, I will have done 6 US tours and a couple shows up in Canada. Not that it really matters to you guys what I'm doing, but just want to let you guys know that I'm not blowing smoke, and I have been doing this in the last year quite extensively, and I'm very proud of it, and I want to share my thoughts and opinions and findings with you all, okay? So my first tip, it's incredibly obvious, but let's just knock it out. You gotta practice. Now, when you're in preparation for playing live, in my opinion, the act of playing guitar is like second or third in terms of like importance of what you're doing, which really doesn't make sense kind of on paper, but let me explain. In my opinion, first and foremost, it's a show, and we're going to be hearing that a lot in this video. It's a show. You're putting on a performance. You're there to entertain. And unless you're like Yngwie Malmsteen, the audience, generally speaking, isn't there to see you play guitar and shred, unfortunately, right? So what you have to do as a guitar player is perform and put on a show. You also have to make sure you're hearing the cues of, like, if you have a click track or if you have a vocalist calling the shots or the drummer, you know, you're paying attention to everything else around you in a band setting. So the act of playing guitar and actually playing the parts correctly, in my opinion, is like the third most important thing, because you should have already done all the legwork and done all the shedding when you're preparing for playing live. When you're playing live, it should just be second nature, and you should not be really thinking about the parts or like how the song goes or anything like that. If that's what you're thinking about on stage, you're already behind the 8 ball and you've already kind of failed because you're not prepared. So when you're getting ready for a show, whether that's a local show, a tour, a recital, I don't know, a showcase, whatever, man, just any sort of opportunity to play in front of people and showcase your art and your skills, the thought of playing your instrument should not be the prominent thought in the forefront of your brain. That should all be second nature. So by the time you walk on stage, all the practicing, all the preparation will all pay off, because you don't really have to think too much. You can just go out there and be on autopilot and put on a damn good show. My next piece of advice on how to play live and play live well is you have to get used to playing in front of people. I think that is an incredibly uncomfortable feeling, no matter who you are. The first time you step on stage or the first time you expose yourself to the world and share your art with an audience, it's vulnerable, it's uncomfortable, it's not the most pleasant feeling, and you have to get used to that unpleasant feeling. You have to get in front of people, right? So I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, you gotta, play open mics and like just play at your local clubs and your local bars and X, Y, and Z. There is some serious truth to that, and I do believe that to some degree. However, in my opinion, and this is where I feel as though my opinion is a little bit different than most, I feel as though putting yourself out on social media makes you feel way more uncomfortable at first, but also too makes you accustomed to being uncomfortable and exposes you to a giant, massive audience.
Not good enough. You can tell yourself you don't give a fuck.
I mean, we have the whole entire world in our pocket, right? So you can expose yourself to the entire world with a social media post, whether that's an Instagram reel, a TikTok, a YouTube video, case in point, whatever. But like, you have the means to get that uncomfortable feeling over and over and over again just by putting yourself out there on the internet. And for me, in my experience, I think the reason why I don't feel like that stage fright or I'm fine with that uncomfortable feeling is because I've been putting myself out there on social media for 7 or 8 years, every single day, to the point where I go in front of people, it's like I'm uncomfortable on a daily basis, just putting my art and my creative ideas out to the world. So, I'm used to being uncomfortable. I'm used to people criticizing or judging, or at the very least, staring at me and or praising what I do. But you guys see what I'm saying? Like, social media for me was a great way to get used to being uncomfortable and being in front of an audience. And by the time I started playing to decent sized crowds, that uncomfortable feeling was second nature, just because I was exposing myself to the world, with a social media post. And that's a little bit different because, in my opinion, I feel as though, I don't know, like playing the local scene, like that's good and that's all fine for some people. But for me, I don't know, it's just not really my thing. Unless you live like in Nashville or something like that, I feel as though you can get more out of like social media and focus on social media rather than playing the local scene. And I've said that several times in this channel, and I still stand by that. But if you disagree with me, or if that's not your thing, that's totally fine too. Just my opinion. Let's start talking about the gear and what you need for a show when you're playing live. You need a stage plot. A stage plot is basically deciding what type of gear you need and where you're going to put it on the stage, right? So sticking with guitar stuff, you need to decide if you want to have like a real analog tube amp or a solid state amp head, if you want to have a modeler, if you want to have cabs, if you don't want to have cabs, if you just want to have in-ears, if you just want to go to front of house and no in-ears, that'd be crazy, but I'm sure somebody's done it out there. But basically, you have to decide what type of gear you want. For me, my current setup is a modeler, quad Cortex, no cab on stage, in-ears, and then going to front of house, okay? And for me, for earbuds, lately, I've been using the EB6 Dynadriver full frequency earbuds from Galaxy Audio. I actually used these in-ears when I was out with Icy Stars and Elijah. I was using these every single night. And these are rather budget friendly. I mean, they're very budget friendly. And for me personally right now, I don't need a giant price tag on my in-ears because I play really aggressively. I play rather recklessly at times. I don't want things to get broken. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on like several grand for in-ears and then I break them or I lose them. So for me, budget-friendly in-ears is totally fine for me, especially as a guitar player, because when I'm doing in-ears, my mix is basically click, vocals, and me. I'm playing at like mostly mid-size to lower mid-size clubs right now. So like I can hear the drums fine. I can hear, the ambience of just like the show pretty fine. So as long as I have vocals and click and myself, that's all I really need. I don't need anything super, amazing sounding. I just need to make sure I'm getting signal from my guitar. That's kind of what this is, more or less. So Sweetwater did send me these in-ears, and I've been using them, like I said, quite frequently. So I'll put a product link down below in the description if you guys want to go check these out. They're less than $100, and I use them every single night. I've got 2 pair of these, and they've been nothing but great to me. So yeah, if you guys want to check them out, I highly recommend it. Huge shout out to Sweetwater for always being so good to the channel and sponsoring this video. It means a lot, man. These in-ears are really, really sick. Now, full transparency, are they the best thing in the world? Probably not, right? But do they work for me, and are they affordable? Yes, and I think most people are certainly looking towards being budget friendly and not spending a ton of money, especially if we're not like, touring arenas or stadiums just yet. Maybe one day we'll get there, right? And when I say we, all of us. But then last but not least, in terms of gear, from a guitar standpoint, you just want a guitar that's reliable, man. Like, you don't want a guitar that is going to go out of tune, in my opinion, that has a lot of features and bells and whistles and batteries and switches and more variables for things to go wrong. That's just my own experience. But like for me right now, I'm just rocking guitars with just like one volume, no neck pickup, just one pickup, one bridge pickup, and just like a hardtail. Like my Jim Root Strat's exactly that, man. I ripped out the neck pickup just because I didn't want any sort of variables. So you can certainly run any sort of gear that you want, obviously. But for me, a less is more and a more stripped down, less problems or less problem areas, potential problem areas, the better for me. So whatever it is, whatever piece of gear in terms of guitar you want to use, by all means, go for it. But for me, I like my guitar to just like, if something goes wrong, I can troubleshoot all the things that I need to troubleshoot in 10 seconds. There's only like 2 or 3 problem areas, like the output jack, the volume knob, bridge pickup, and the strings. Did they break or not? That's all I really got to worry about. Now, let's talk about booking the gig. Let's get your first real gig. Now, this is where going back to the local open mic nights, for example, really comes in handy because, I said you don't necessarily need to do that much, but you do need to play live. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. So there is some benefit to going out and seeing your local scene, meeting the promoters, meeting the owners of the venues, etc. So you do want to get in the scene and you do want to get in the know with who's putting on the shows. So when it's time to book your gig, make sure you're friendly, make sure you're professional, whether it's an email or phone conversation. State who you are, what your band name is, provide an EPK, electronic press kit, give all your social credentials and say, hey, I'd love to put on a show, and would you want to work together? Now, different gigs and different venues have different rules in terms of like how they go about booking the gig. Like there's one place out in Pittsburgh that like is a pretty well-known place, where like they have a flat rate. You rent out the room and then you keep everything else in terms of merch, in terms of whatever. You just have to pay the flat rate of renting that room and then you're good to go. So like there's different variables, but long story short, in order to get in the room, you just have to be professional, be upfront, be direct, and just say, hey, I'd love to play a show at your local venue. And then certainly if you get higher up, you're going to have to hire a booking agent, but you got to have the numbers, the credentials, the it factor to even get there in the first place. And last but not least, my favorite thing I want to talk about how to play live is your stage presence. This kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this video. If you're putting on a show, put on a show, man. Just because you play guitar at a band does not mean that anybody really cares. It is so hard to get people's attention. You have to have this so what factor. Like, okay, yeah, you play guitar. So what? Why is the audience going to care? And I'll be incredibly blunt and transparent, and I'll answer my own question. Like for you guys, why should anybody care to see me play? Well, in my opinion, I have crazy energy and I have a rather unique aesthetic. So I'm interesting to look at. And that may be like kind of taboo and a bit, arrogant of me to say, but I'm being honest. Like, why should anybody care about me playing? Obviously, I'm incredibly good at what I do on the instrument. Sure, I'm proud of my skills and my skill set on the instrument, but also too, I go off and I play really, really aggressively. I like to dance, I like to chew bubble gum, and I like to have an unrelenting amount of energy on stage. That's just me being blunt about why anybody should care about me playing. Not to mention, I have crazy tattoos. So there's that, I guess. So, like I said before, why should anybody care? You got to have that it factor. Now, you don't necessarily have to be, full of energy or have to get a bunch of tattoos or do anything that I'm saying is, that what I'm doing. It doesn't really matter. But my point is, you just have to have something of value to the audience. I don't know, take another band. Let's take old school Mudvayne. Why did anybody like Mudvayne? Because they looked crazy and they were incredibly talented and they had high energy. Take another band, Limp Bizkit. Why does anybody care about Limp Bizkit? Incredible stage presence. The way Fred Durst commands the audience's attention and conducts the crowd. He has the whole crowd in the palm of his hand. I mean, take Woodstock 99, man. It's just crazy how he has that entire airfield just in the palm of his hand. And he commands attention and respect, and he gets it from the audience. Not to mention, the other members are incredibly talented, and West Borland looks crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they just have that it factor. So your band has to have that it factor, or you, the artist, has to have that it factor. Just because you play guitar does not mean anybody's going to care. Nobody's going to sit there and watch you just play a crazy solo unless you're in a band called Animals as Leaders. And that's pretty much it, more or less. In my opinion, of course. So everybody, all that encompassing, those are my thoughts and opinions on how to play guitar live. What do you guys think of my thoughts and opinions? Do you guys agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I'd love to hear from you down below in the comments section. Your guys' interaction really means the world to me, and I sincerely appreciate you guys, okay? So with that being said, everybody, like and share this video. Send it to you guys as band members if you guys enjoyed it. Follow me on any sort of streaming service. You can check out my own original music. Follow me on any social media platform. Like this video, subscribe, and anything else that I missed, okay? Love you guys so much. With that being said, see you guys in the next video. Later.